Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion. A poetry discussion which will appear in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel. A playlist which is now over 350 poems strong. So be sure to check that playlist out if you are a poetry aficionado. I am not a Pablo Neruda aficionado, but I have stumbled across a poem known as A Dog Has Died, and I thought it would be worth doing a poetry discussion for. A dog has died. My dog has died. I buried him in the garden next to a rusted old machine. Someday I'll join him right there, but now he's gone, with his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose. And I, the materialist who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being. I believe in a heaven I'll never enter. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogdom, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving his fan-like tail in friendship. I I'll not speak of sadness here on earth, of having lost a companion who was never servile. His friendship for me, like that of a porcupine, withholding its authority, was the friendship of a star, aloof, with no more intimacy than was called for, with no exaggerations. He never climbed all over my clothes, filling me full of his hair or his mange. He never rubbed up against my knee like other dogs obsessed with sex. No, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need, the attention required to make a vain person like me understand that, being a dog, he was wasting time, but with those eyes so much purer than mine, he'd keep on gazing at me, with a look that reserved for me alone all his sweet and shaggy life, always near me, never troubling me, and asking nothing. I How many times I have envied his tail as we walked together on the shores of the sea in the lonely winter of Isla Negra, where the wintering birds filled the sky and my hairy dog was jumping about full of the voltage of the sea's movement, my wandering dog sniffing away, with his golden tail held high, face to face with the ocean's spray. Joyful, 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 as only dogs know how to be happy, with only the autonomy of their shameless spirit. There are no goodbyes for my dog who has died, and we don't now, and never did, lie to each other. So now he's gone, and I buried him, and that's all there is to it. I want to go back up here. First off, my dog has died. Maman died today. Now, we go from A Dog Died in the title to My Dog Died in the first line. Starting off with a little bit of distance and then getting closer to the subject of the poem, to the speaker of the poem, is an interesting way to build intimacy, but it works. Now, the thing that I really want to talk about in this poem is this stanza right here. Someday I'll join him right there, but now he's gone with his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose, and I, the materialist who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being. I believe in a heaven I'll never enter. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogdom, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving his fan-like tail in friendship. I'm a firm believer that oftentimes The thing which is most worthy of being talked about in literature is the thing which least belongs, right? This sudden turn towards religion, very early in the poem, is very quickly abandoned. We're back here on Earth, the sadness here on Earth, the very next stanza, and we don't go back to the religious. Not really. But here it is, here. And it's an interesting sentiment about religion, isn't it? I, the materialist who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being, I believe in a heaven I'll never enter. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogdom, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving his fan-like tail in friendship. Our speaker is afraid to admit how sad he is. We get that, right? We understand that because he tries to play it cool at first. A dog has died. Yeah, a dog has died. But immediately after that, my dog has died, and I buried him in the garden next to a rusted old machine. But though I don't believe in heaven, surely he must be there. Right? Our speaker is hedging closer and closer to sentimentality as this poem goes on, starting it at that great distance of a dog has died. The phrase a dog has died tells us nothing. A dog somewhere died from something. Who cared for that dog? What was that dog's name? How did the dog die? Right? And we immediately get closer. And we immediately get more and more sentimental. But this idea of having never believed in a heaven until you needed that heaven not for you, but for someone else, that you may remain in working order. I don't believe in the idea of an afterlife, but my dog died, and that sweet, sweet puppy, good old doggo, surely doggo's in heaven. I never wanted a heaven before, but now I kind of do. Have you ever heard of John Stuart Mill? John Stuart Mill, I ripped this directly from Wikipedia, don't tell them. You're supposed to donate, you know. John Stuart Mill, 20th of May, 1806, 7th of May, 1873, was an English philosopher and political economist, politician, and civil servant, one of the most influential thinkers in the history of classical liberalism. He contributed widely to social theory, and political economy. Dubbed the most influential English-speaking philosopher of the 19th century by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, he conceived of liberty as justifying the freedom of the individual in opposition to unlimited state and social control. This is where we really get into it. Mill was a proponent of utilitarianism, an ethical theory developed by his predecessor, Jeremy Bentham. He contributed to the investigation of scientific methodology, though his knowledge of the topic was based on the writings of others, notably William Whewell, John Herschel, and Auguste Comte, and research carried out for Mill by Alexander Bain. He engaged in written debate with Whewell. Now, why do I bring this up? Because of the idea of utilitarianism, because of the idea of religion and utilitarianism. Utilitarianism meaning the greatest good for the greatest number of people. If something has a positive effect, probably it is for the good. Now, we get into interesting debates when whether something is true or not, and it has positive effects, is it still good? If the guy down the street erects a giant statue of an ant, and all of a sudden, everyone's yards start spontaneously sprouting apple trees. That must be an act of the ant god. Worship the ant god. Now, if this keeps us productive in our lives, is it for the common good? Is it a net positive? John Stuart Mill wrote an essay called The Utility of Religion. Oh no. Did I not? Hold on. I guess I forgot that part. So here we have an excerpt that I got from The Utility of Religion by John Stuart Mill. In The Utility of Religion, John Stuart Mill is debating whether or not religion is a good thing, debating whether or not if religion is true or not. Is religion a good thing? We get this quote: "One advantage, such as it is, the supernatural religions must always possess over the religion of humanity, the prospect they hold out to the individual of a life after death. For, though the skepticism of the understanding does not necessarily exclude the theism of the imagination and feelings, and this, again, gives opportunity for a hope that the power which has done so much for us may be able and willing to do this also. Such vague possibility must ever stop far short of a conviction. It remains, then, to estimate the value of this element, the prospect of a world to come, as a constituent of earthly happiness. I cannot but think that as the condition of mankind becomes improved, as they grow happier in their lives, and more capable of deriving happiness from unselfish sources, they will care less and less for this flattering expectation. It is not naturally or generally the happy who are the most anxious either for a prolongation of the present life or for a life hereafter. It is those who never have been happy. They who have had their happiness can bear to part with existence, but it is hard to die without ever having lived. When mankind cease to need a future existence as a consolation for the sufferings of the present, it will have lost its chief value to them for themselves. Now, is this kind of what that's saying? Is that, look, it's not happy people that want heaven, it's people who never enjoyed their life that want a life after life. Do we have any hint from our speaker in this poem that perhaps he has not lived a happy life? I think that it goes right back to what it was that we talked about to begin this very discussion. When we look at this poem, it starts, "A dog has died," before getting into "my dog has died," before trying to shrug this off by saying, "I buried him in the garden next to a rusted old machine. Someday I'll join him there." I think that what our speaker has done through and through in this poem is exemplify why it is that our speaker, we'll call him, our speaker is not happy. He has not lived a full life. He has, in fact, tried to distance himself from everything along the way. Our speaker is now suddenly clinging to the idea of a heaven because he is faced with the prospect of the end. Faced with the prospect of the end, having never really lived in this life. Our speaker, faced with this not only for himself but for his dog, who he is suddenly realizing, perhaps, that he never gave the best life. Old Doggo and I, we sure did love each other, but we never really we never. What's the phrase? Where's he say it here? My dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need, the attention required to make a vain person like me understand that being a dog, he was wasting time. But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he'd keep on gazing at me. Our speaker feels, perhaps, guilty for the life that he never gave his dog, and realizes in that he feels bad for the life that he has not given himself. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. There's poetry on the channel every Monday. There are also read-alongs going on right now for Ernest Hemingway short stories, the entirety of Ernest Hemingway short stories, the entire collected poems of Sylvia Plath. We just finished up Dubliners by James Joyce. The new Stephen King, for whatever that's worth. Not a very good book, but there are other Stephen Kings on the channel that are a good book. I've got to read along for The Shining, for example. I'm planning on getting around to a couple of the other ones this year, but that is what we do on the channel. If you are not subscribed to or already, consider doing it, because I would love to have you back for the next one.